On behalf of the Society of Certified Senior Advisors, thanks for joining us for this month's CSA webinar. You can't take it with you, decluttering and downsizing tips. We have a great presentation for you today. Joining us is Matt Paxton. Matt is one of the top extreme cleaning experts in the country, as featured on the television show Hoarders. Paxton started cleaning out houses after his father and grandparents passed away in the same year. His business, Clutter Cleaner, focused on solving difficult living situations caused by extreme clutter. Legacy Navigator was founded on his expertise in extreme cleaning and experience in managing his family's estates. Matt appears regularly as a public speaker, television guest, and radio personality, talking about our emotional attachment to items and how to manage successful downsizing. Matt will also be a featured keynote speaker at the CSA conference in Dallas in August of this year. Matt, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's a
thanks
pleasure.
Thanks for having all the participants as well. I'll try to make this entertaining and informative. It's supposed to be funny, but I can't hear any of you, so I hope you laugh. All right, I think you know who I am. I'm the guy on Hoarders. I clean all the really messy houses. Excuse me, I still do clean a lot of houses, but as we've expanded in the aging population, I think we're all seeing this. Healthcare and caretaking is being forced into the homes. And so a majority of my cleaning now is helping families in transition, whether they're moving to assisted living or whether they're trying to age in place. And regardless, they have a lot of stuff and have a house and they need to get to it. And so although I still do a lot of my training is based on hoarding, today you're going to learn techniques, really not hoarding, just regular traditional decluttering techniques so we can get these houses clean and we can actually get the caretaking back into home. I would point out there's a wonderful book here called The Secret Lives of Hoarders. I would encourage you to buy probably 100 copies. It's a wonderful book. The guy that wrote it is really great. I think the expertise here is important. I've probably cleaned over 3,000 or 4,000 hoarded homes now. And it really just comes from 15 years of hustling on these houses. And so although you may not find a lot of textbooks written about this, what we're doing is we're teaching what we've learned at every single house to help your families. Everyone wants to know how I got into this, and there's a point here. I actually was an economist for the Federal Reserve, believe it or not, and I did not like it. So I moved to Caesar's Palace Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I had a really good time. I was 24. I had no kids, no wife, and really no morals, and I was just having a really good time hanging out in Vegas and working for the casino. And I had a blast. It was just true excess. All it was excess. And then that summer, my father, my stepfather, and both my grandfathers passed away. And so it was over a year's time. But by the time I was 25, I had to come home back to Virginia, and I had these 4 houses to clean. And I was really, really miserable, just miserable. And I was sad. I was grieving. I had these big houses to go through, and it was a bunch of junk that nobody wanted. And I just didn't know what to do. And then I just said, this sucks. And my grandfather always told me, if something really sucks, do it as a job because nobody else is going to want to do it. And sure enough, he was right. 20 years later, here I am still cleaning out messy homes that nobody wanted to clean. On one specific home, I found this golf bag. If you look on your screen right now, you see a big red golf bag. This lady was 80-year-old lady, very, very, very sad. And she was embarrassed that she had to have somebody in the home with her to help her down. She was downsizing, moving to assisted living, and her kids didn't want to help her. She wanted her kids to help, but she was very, very upset that anyone had to be in the home to help her. And she thought she should have been able to handle it herself. And this golf bag was the focus. She said, my kids want me to get rid of it. It, of course, was her husband who had passed away. And she said, I don't play golf. I know that. Logically, it makes no sense. She couldn't even pick the bag up. It weighed so much. And I said, well, let's just talk about the bag. Now, mind you, this is 15 years ago. There was no TV show called Hoarders. We hadn't written books. We didn't really understand the disorder yet. And I said, well, what's the problem? She said, well, all my daughters want me to throw it away. All my sons want to keep it for themselves. And she goes, I just really want it. And I said, we're moving into a 600 square foot apartment. Is this really what you use the space for? And she started to cry, and she said, look, on my 50th wedding anniversary, my husband and I went to play golf in Florida. And she goes, it was the first time he ever let me drive. And I said, okay. And I said, 50 years yet? She goes, he never let me drive. And she goes, and I got nervous and I hit the gas instead of the brake. And I drove the golf cart right into the Gulf of Mexico. And they're on the western coast of Florida. And she said, only thing I could see was the golf cart was sinking, but she goes, I saw this golf bag bobbing up and down. And she's crying and laughing at the same time. And she's telling me the story. And she's like, oh, my husband was so mad at me. And then we had to jump in and we had to save it. And she just stops and she said, I just miss my husband so much. And that was the day I realized, man, this is again, the story's almost 15 years old. But I said, this isn't about the stuff. It's about the emotions attached to the stuff. It's the stories. It's the people. It's the love. It's the loss. It's the grief. It's everything that is attached to this stuff. And of course, this woman was my grandmother. And I just still love this story to this day. She still has the bag. She's not ready to get rid of it. And that's okay. And we'll learn some techniques later today on how we get rid of other items instead of this. But if one of your clients has a story like that and really wants it, that's okay. It's not about getting rid of the stuff. It's about preserving all these memories. Of course, I expanded onto the TV show Hoarders. Like it or not, I was on a TV show that put a mental disorder on television for entertainment. And there's a challenge there. There's an ethical dilemma from the beginning. And what I learned was very quickly, we started to pay for therapy for our clients. So if someone appeared on Hoarders, they actually got up to a year of therapy paid for free. And I think that's really important. If they had not gotten that therapy, I don't think it'd be appropriate for us to do the show, to be really blunt. Just 2 years ago, they tried to cut the therapy from the budget, and all the therapists on the show said, we're out, we won't do it. So I was glad to say, even this year, they're still filming an episode. I'm no longer on the show, but they're filming episodes this summer, and they're still keeping the therapy, which is a good thing. So now I can't mandate everybody goes to therapy. I wish I could, but I do want to make sure as we've learned a lot in this industry, we've learned a lot over the last 10 years. I think the show had some help in that, bringing awareness to the industry. But we did offer therapy, and I can tell you right now, any extreme cleaning, if hoarding is involved, there's no point in doing the cleaning if you're not going to provide therapy as well. And here we are now today. This is my Legacy Navigator story. And this is real simple. After everybody died, I didn't know what to do. I needed someone to help me. And now I've created a business that it's really important for us to go in and help people, whatever transition they're in, whether they're moving or aging in place. I think what makes my new business unique is we can actually finance this around the country. We can actually help these families. And most of them actually have their money is tied up in their house. They're asset rich, cash poor. So what I'm proud about Legacy Navigators, we can actually finance all the work, all the clean out. We do all the work for them. We will pay for the deposits and assisted living and all the expenses they have. And for qualifying clients, we can actually do all that. And then we get paid when the house sells. So we've been able to make really these transitions a lot more affordable. All right, so where are we today? We're going to get into some general understanding of why stuff's so important, and then a couple cool techniques. Don't raise your hand during this. Obviously, I can't see you, but do send your questions in, and I hope I'll be able to answer them. Obviously, we're seeing an enormous amount of people over 65. I'm preaching to the choir in this group. I think the main stat I want to see is we see about 5% of the country is over 65 right now. We're going to see 35% here in the next 30 years. That's a massive number, absolutely massive number. And they will be the largest buying group in America within 30 years. And we're still struggling to get corporate America to understand that. But we're seeing it every day. And the number I really tend to focus on is people that are dying. Because half my clients call us right after a family member has passed away. The other half is they're trying to get into assisted living or they want to stay. But we're seeing 3 million people die each year, and that number will quickly increase to 4 and then 5 million. That's a big number. It's a very large part. It's about 2% of the country. So we'll see over the next 30 years, there's a ton of people with a ton of stuff that are going to be in transition. I always like to look really quick. Well, who are my clients? If you look in the top left-hand corner, this is my 85 and older. These guys tend to get called hoarders. I'll argue they're not hoarders. They're good kids that are doing what their parents taught them to do post-depression. I think this is really important. This is our guy in the military here. These guys, they hold on to clothes and food at a much higher rate than the rest of us. And that's really simple why. They do it because they remember real trauma. They remember not having food. They remember not having clothes. These are the guys that we find their soles to their shoes. They have them resold. I would assume very few of us listening to this webinar right now actually get our shoes resoled, and then we keep the soles and the strings. That is a very common thing that I find in this household. The next group to your right, or sorry, below them, is the boomers, 65 and older. I think it's also important to understand this is 4 generations that are still alive right now. It's very rare to have 4 generations still alive at the same time. You got great-grandpa, you got great-grandpa, grandpa, dad, and son. And that's very common right now. We'll never see 4 generations alive at the same time again. That's because the top 3 generations had kids in their 20s, and then you get to the last 2 generations, they started in their 30s, and some are even poking into their 40s. And so it's really important to understand that with the 2 oldest generations, were very young when they had kids, so they collected stuff for 60 plus years. And they're also the 2 oldest generations that they started off with nothing. They took a GI and they went to the war, came back, had a GI Bill, bought a very small house, and they worked really, really, really hard, and they saved. They saved their cash, and they didn't buy something until they had enough money for it. And they worked really, really, really hard, and then they would save something, they would buy it, and then they would use it. And then when it broke down, they'd fix it, and they'd use it again. My top left corner and my bottom left corner, these 2 guys, they saved everything because they had nothing. If we look to the 2 people on the right, we bought everything because we had enough money to do so. 2 really different groups, but all of us consumed at an excessive rate. We live in America. We are Americans. We buy, we consume. Our economy is built on it. It's pretty crazy. I even have a business. I have 60 employees, and our job is to go in and help you get rid of too much stuff. That guy in the top left corner, I can assure you, he never thought he would have too much stuff, and he sure didn't think he would have to pay someone to do anything with it. My grandfather would be appalled that I even have a business. I called a plumber the other day to come in and fix my sink. That would destroy my grandfather. And my father would think, man, you didn't pay enough. You should have done it faster. So generations have changed quickly based on our saving habits and our consumption habits. But we're seeing a lot of thing habits here. We're seeing the top oldest generation, the grandparents, the great-grandparents, the grandparents, and then myself, the Gen X on the top right. We're having our kids. We're buying a lot of stuff. Each generation, we see more people having say in who buys what. At the very top, you had one person. Usually it was grandma. She was in charge of what got bought. Now, I got 3 kids, 8, 6, and 4, and they've all got tablets. They've all go to the store with mommy, and so mommy's in charge of buying. So is daddy, and the kids all have influence. So you got 4, 5, 6 people in each household in charge of buying now and consuming, as opposed to 1 in the past. The houses are filling up really fast. The interesting thing is the bottom right corner are millennials. The millennials don't get a lot of positive response lately. But I got to tell you, they behave the most like our top left-hand corner. They behave the most like our grandparents. They don't want stuff. They live in tiny houses. Some of them live in your houses. A lot of them didn't ever get homes. They just went back home. And they're saving their money, and they're spending their money on experiences, or they're just saving. And they don't buy a lot of trinkets. They don't buy a lot of wasted stuff. So what's unique about this is although we see a 60-year trend ahead of us here of all the generations have a lot of stuff and are passing it down to the next generation, we do see an end. In about 60 to 70 years, we're seeing 2 new generations that are not going to consume at a much higher rate. They're consuming at a much lower rate. And that's really interesting to see that, because bottom line, I should play this first. The first one on the left, that's my older clients. That's every item they've ever had. Right, this is on the left. You see a lot of short sleeve dress shirts. You see a lot of khakis and suits. You don't see any jeans. I'll be honest, when I get into a closet like this, first thing I'm looking for is cash. I find a lot of cash in these houses. In fact, I actually found $1.7 million in stocks and bonds last weekend in a state I was in. Family had no idea. $1.7 million because this guy saved. He saved and saved and saved. On the right, that's our younger generation. That's a storage unit. They spend all the money they work for, or all the money their parents work for. They buy a lot of stuff, and they put it in storage. which is pretty crazy when you think about it. I got so much stuff. The house that I have is not big enough to show it. So I'm going to pay a stranger to hold on to it. It's really an American concept. And believe it or not, it's a $2 billion industry, public storage is. So 4 generations, 4 different things. I love this picture, the oldest in the bottom. The guy on the left lied about his age to do what? Go to the war. The guy on the right lies about his age to drink beer. There's a big difference between these 2 generations, 60 years in between them. But they're the 2 generations that behave the most alike. These 2 generations, they don't care as much about stuff. They care about family. They care about experiences. And so it's all the generations in between that are struggling with stuff. But those generations in between, they're our clients for the next 50 years. So why are we talking about getting rid of it now? It's a big issue. I hear this all the time with my clients. One day this will all be yours. My seniors or my aging clients are saying, yay, like someday this will all be yours. And my younger clients are, oh God, someday this will all be mine. Bottom line is, nobody wants your stuff. And I'll say it again. Nobody wants your stuff. And our older clients really struggle with this. They've saved everything because they believe this is their fantasy, that when they die, there's going to be this huge party and everybody's going to use their chargers and their silver and their china and their candelabras. They're going to be so excited and so proud. And the reality is, you're leaving that next generation with a real disaster. They don't want it. They have no interest in keeping it, and it's really a hassle. I can tell you as a guy, I clean out the houses, I help people deliver what they want to keep, and then I sell the stuff they don't want. And let me assure you, you know what never sells? The brown furniture, the china, and the silver will sell for scrap metal. But nobody cares about that china that we all got when we got married. Man, you can't sell that stuff for anything in the world. There's one place, replacements, store it in North Carolina. They'll sell it. They'll buy it for nothing. Right? Your fancy silver, your fancy crystal, nobody wants it. All right. And so this belief that everybody in our family wants this stuff, well, it's not real. They're not going to get together and have a big party. Our kids don't have time in their life to come sort through your house for 20 weeks. Most families hire us because they're busy. They got soccer games. They got things to do. They don't have time to sort through mom and dad's house. And so I love this fantasy reality picture of it. It's really important to know that nobody wants your stuff. All right, let's get into a couple tips here. First thing I encourage my clients to do is imagine if your house caught on fire. Okay? If your house caught on fire, you probably got about 2 minutes. So what are you going to take with you? Hopefully you're thinking that you'll take your partner, your spouse. That's the first thing you should take. Most people are now thinking cat or my pet. That's the next thing I'll take. Well, guess what? You're already out of time. All right. By the time you made those 2 decisions, you got to get out of the house. Everything else in your house, it's not that important. I encourage families to have a little fireproof safe that has all their financial records, all the social security cards, all their documents, driver's licenses, their passports. They're really, really important. Where's your trusts, accounts, all those things, your will, all that needs to be in a nice little fireproof safe. And some pictures, a few pictures of family that you want to keep. Other than that, it's all going to burn down if your house burns down. So I have families write everything down on one side of a piece of paper, and I say, okay, now get the stuff that's most important, get it to a really, really safe place, because you're going to have about 2 minutes if your house is burning down. It's a morbid thought, but you have to understand that's the reality. Number 2, don't expect perfection. When I give this class live, I typically have everybody raise their hand and say, who's been in your house 10 years? And everybody raises their hand. And I say, how about 20 years? And half the hands come down. How about 30 years? And a few more hands come down. I say, how about 40 years? And you always have 3 or 4 people. And then you have one person at 50 years, and you have a few people at 60 years. There are a lot of people that have been in the same house for 50 plus years. And this is for a normal age in place client or a normal transitional client. Either way, the reality is it took us 50 years to fill this house. Are we going to be able to empty it in 2 days? It's not realistic. The husband typically says, just throw it all away. I don't want it. I'm good. And then the wife thinks, well, we're going to take the next 5 years to go through it. right? We got to meet somewhere in the middle. Obviously, you can't spend 5 years decluttering, but it is not going to take a weekend. You have to be really, really clear with the entire family. It's going to take a little more time than 2 days. Celebrate your success. This is super important. When you clean out a garage, you have to be proud that you finished half the garage one day. What you can't do is say, oh, God, we still got a whole house left. Typically speaking to the wives here, I hate to single out one group, but this is very similar to, I got a buddy that used to weigh 800 pounds, and he now weighs 600 pounds. We threw a huge party, man. Dude lost 200 pounds. That's unbelievable. He's still a pretty big gig. He's still a pretty big guy. Right? You can't just say, well, dude, you're still huge. You got 600 pounds. Right? You have to pause. Like, man, this is amazing. You did such a good job. Right? You have to celebrate successes, because if you don't celebrate with your family that you're cleaning up these houses, it will wear you down. Helpful hints. Number 1, include everyone in the house on a clean out. And that's really, really, really important. A lot of times I hear people say, well, I'm not going to ask my husband to help me because he wouldn't be very good. And then they say, well, I'm so mad he wouldn't help. And they go from not including him all the way to punishing him for a crime that he wasn't even allowed to make. All right, this makes sense. You've got to let everyone in your house be a party of this, because otherwise you're going to be angry if they don't. And also, everyone else in the house has different ideas. They have different beliefs. They have different opinions. You've got to let everyone get involved. And this includes the grandkids. Right? Truth be told, the work that I do for a living is something that grandkids did for free 30 years ago. Right? I cleaned out my aunt's house every summer. I got a $2 bill from my grandfather. A $2 bill. I think about it. I spent one summer chopping wood at my grandfather's farm, and he gave me a $20 bill at the end of 2 months. And I must have chopped down 2 trees. Right? That was just our job. That's what we did. I had a kid in my neighborhood. I tried to get him to mow my lawn, and he wanted $40 to mow my lawn. I said, man, if my wife would pay me $40, I would mow the lawn for $40. That's a ton of money. Right? Get these grandkids involved, and not for pay. Get your children, your adult children involved. Call them, tell them to participate. Because what happens is everyone has opinions. And if you don't let them participate, all you're going to hear about is the opinions for the next 20 years. You threw away my yearbook. You threw away my notes from my 8th grade girlfriend. Those old little paper things that did she love me or did she not? And circle, circle, dot, dot. Now you got your cutie shot. Right? It's unbelievable the stuff these adult children want to keep now. Make them show up, because they don't have a voice if they're not there. 10-minute sweep. This is my number 1 favorite piece of advice. Stop looking at your house as one huge clean out. It's too much. It's too big. I ran the marathon last year, and I could not run 2 miles on the very first day. I had to stop and walk. Well, if I had decided to run or not run the marathon that day, the answer would have been no. Right? It took me a whole summer to train, really into the fall. It took me a long time to train and get ready to run. Same thing with cleaning. You cannot clean your entire house that's been in 50 years in one weekend. So I like to say, pick a 10-minute area or a 1 foot by 1 foot area, right, and clean it for 10 minutes. I start cleaning at 7:50 and I clean till 8. When I hear Final Jeopardy, I'm almost done. Right? I give everyone in the family gets involved. Back to number 1. So the kids have a 1 foot by 1 foot area. My partner has a 1 foot by 1 foot area. Each kid has it, and then I have it. So we have 5 feet that are getting cleaned every night. If you do this 5 nights a week, take 2 nights off. You just clean for 10 minutes every night. So you're cleaning less than a week an hour. If you do that every week, week after week, week after week, it really starts to add up. And before you know it, the house starts to take space. The problem is if you never touch it or you avoid it because it's just too much work to do. Right? Number 3, this is a funny one for me, unpacking bags. I typically ask the room, what is the right way, or what's the rule on unpacking bags? When you come back from vacation, when should you unpack your bag? The right answer is immediately. The wrong answer is when I'm packing for my next vacation. And so many of the people in the room, people say, well, yeah, I don't even unpack it until I need to repack the suitcase. Okay. I typically will unpack it immediately. And I don't let the bag hit the ground. And where I really push people on this is in shopping. If you come back from IKEA or Target, Target, Walmart, and your local grocery store, this is where we see it the most, right? Or even Goodwill. When you walk back in, it's hot, you're tired, you put that bag down on the ground, and then you sit down to watch TV or do whatever you're going to do, or even check your cell phone. If you put that bag down, it is not going to get unpacked. My advice to you is unpack the bag immediately, right? And as soon as you unpack the bag, every item goes to its proper place, right? So 3 and 4 kind of combined. You got to unpack the bags immediately. If you leave them, honestly, most of the houses I clean on the hoarding side of my business, this is where they mess up on number 3. They come inside, they get tired, they get into all the stores, they put the bags down, and they lay down, take a nap, or they just don't get to say, I'll do it tonight, and then tonight doesn't happen, and then the next night doesn't happen. And then they go to the store and they say, oh yeah, I needed that mustard. I forgot to get it last time. I'll get some more. And then they buy the same stuff. And they put the bag down, same vicious circle, and it keeps happening and happening. And honest to God, I've cleaned out houses where I unpack, I'll unpack 100 grocery bags, and I end up seeing, of those 100 grocery bags, there's 70 bottles of ketchup or 70 bottles of mustard. It's the same thing week after week that they buy, and they just don't put it in the right place. And that's why I get to number 4. Every item has a home. This is super important. Your clothes go in your closet. They don't go in the kitchen. Your food goes in the kitchen. They don't go in the living room. Right? Your stuff for the yard, it goes in the garage. It doesn't go in your bedroom. It's amazing. Toys go where supposed to go. And you can teach this at a young age as well. Don't be afraid to include your kids here as well. Every item has a place. And if you continue to do that, I've got 3 young boys and I'm trying to teach them how to clean. And the hardest thing we've done is right here on the screen, teaching our boys to put their jackets and their shoes in the same place every day. Because everything, the next morning, oh, where are my shoes? I had no idea. Where's my jacket? I don't know. I can't find it. Every item has a place. It'll save you money and it'll save you time. All right, 4-pile sort. Really important here as you're starting to clean. Put things into piles. Keep, sell, donate, and trash. Keep is pretty self-explanatory. If you're moving into a situation where you're transitioning to assisted living, you've got to know the size of the space. I probably get 10, 15 calls a day from people around the country, and they're like, okay, I got to move, but I don't know what to do. I say, all right, well, I have to ask you first and foremost, where are you moving to? Well, I don't know yet. Well, then I can't help you move. You've got to know the space of the home you're moving into, right? If you're going to age in place, great. We've got the same space, but we've got to find out what modifications are going to be made. And we've got to find out what's the goal of the home? What's the goal? What's the finish line of where you're going? And then you can start to say, okay, well, we're going to keep because it's going to fit there. And then whatever you don't want, I tend to sell first. I use EBTH. It's a great company, everything but the house, ebth.com. We use Max Sold, MAXSOLD, maxsold.com. These are national auction houses online. They get the most amount of people looking at it. All right. My job is to help you get the maximum amount of money for your house or for your stuff, not the minimal. Right. So get it in front. If you do we typically don't do local auction houses because they're just going to do a sale in your house and only a few people are going to show up. And same thing with yard sales. I don't think yard sales are worth, if you value your money, if you're kind of doing, if you're going to do a yard sale, value your time at $15 an hour. That's what you would have to pay somebody. At $15 an hour, how many hours is it going to take you to sort through everything, set up the sale, run the sale, and then break it down? If it's 20 hours, 30 hours, well then, so 30 hours at $15 an hour, you're going to make $450 on the sale to even break even. And we found with yard sales, it rarely happens. So let the professionals help on the sell side of it. On keep, be honest. Do you really have space for it? Donate. I'll be honest. I think donate's the best way to get rid of things. I don't care who you are or where you are in life. There's always someone that has less than you do. Period. There's always someone that has less than you do. So I really encourage you to donate more. And trash, man, depending upon where you live, trash can get pretty expensive. Honestly, I would put recycle in here above trash. So I would put it at keep, sell, donate, recycle, and then trash. There's lots of articles coming out these days that saying we don't actually recycle. Everything that's getting recycled gets thrown away. That's a lie in most situations. All right. Most places still recycle because it's more profitable, not because it's the right thing to do. There's money in that plastic. There's money in that metal. There's money in that in the electronics. Please, please, please recycle when you can, and then trash at the end. On the books, it's important to know it's really hard to donate books now. There's health reasons. You can't recycle encyclopedias, or excuse me, you can't donate encyclopedias anymore, or Yellow Pages, or Time Life magazines, National Geographic magazines. Nobody wants that stuff anymore, so you have to recycle those. I get 6.5 cents per pound on recycling. So last week it was every copy of that Who's Who in America book, and it must have been 60 years of it. And so, I mean, there's a couple thousand books in there. We're able to recycle those and make the family some money back. So focus on recycling, donating, even selling. Set your expectations low on the selling. That's really important. The things that do sell are small things, like your old toys. They sell really, really well. Your old baseball cards, your old comic books, something that's rare. I mean, if it says limited edition, guess what? It's not. If it was printed on there, it's not special. Something is only worth what a third party will pay you for it. And so it has to be rare. It has to be not many of them. Beanie Babies, they're not that valuable. Sorry. It gets people upset. You can't put a lot into these collections like Longaberger baskets and Beanie Babies and all these yoga pants, all this stuff. If all of your friends are trying to sell it to you, then it's probably not that valuable because everybody has the ability to sell it. It has to be rare. Ballpoint pens sell for a lot. Watches, jewelry, small things. Because in all the solutions I'm telling you on selling, the best way is to sell it online. Even eBay is coming back. eBay is coming back pretty strong, and Facebook Marketplace is coming back pretty strong. I would not encourage Craigslist. It's not a very safe place to sell things. And there's a couple apps listed, and there's another app that's really good. But all those things, shipping is involved, and so the smaller, the better. Right? I would say your best bet is donate. If you don't need the money, donate it first. There's someone out there that needs it. Distribute legacy items now. I love this one. Right? The legacy item is a really important item that you really want someone that you love to have. Right? Think about this. I use my mom. I hope my mom is not listening. I always use my mom's piano as a great example here. I mean, I am 43 as of this week, and my mom is almost 70, just sly of it. Now, she has a piano that my grandmother gave to her. My grandmother saved during the war for this piano. My grandmother learned to play piano on this piano. My mother learned. My mother was an organ major in college. It was her career for 20 years. So my mom learned her career on this piano. I learned and played on this piano for 20 years. And now my oldest son is learning. So we have 4 generations that have played on this piano. And it's in my mom's house now. And my mom tells me all the time, when I get older, you're going to get this piano. I say, great, Mom. I'm 43. You're 69. It's going to be another 15, 20 years before I get that piano. I'm going to be 63 when you give me the piano. Hopefully, I'm going to be living in an RV by the time I'm 63. I don't want the piano then. I want my mom to give it to me now so my kids can play it and my kids can play it. My son will be in his early 30s by the time my mom decides to give us piano. He's going to have his own kids. Right? Give the items away now. If it's something important you want to see your kids enjoy, give it to them now. This is always a challenging thing for a lot of families. Right? If you truly don't want to see your kids enjoy it, then don't give it to them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Right? But you've got to distribute now if you want them to enjoy it. Right? My mom, side note, I pushed her on this. She showed up one time to my class, and she heard me. I didn't know she was there, and she heard me telling this, and she said, I'm keeping the piano. I'm not giving it to you. And that was her choice, and that's fine. But if you're trying to get rid of big items and you want the family to enjoy it, do it now. Avoid punting. Punting is one of my favorite terms. This is accepting a gift or giving a gift to a loved one and guilting them into keeping it. It's typically the old brown furniture. It's the big rolling desks, or the big roll top desks, or the big corner cupboards, or china cabinet. Nobody wants those things anymore. Okay, people live in smaller places. Real estate's getting more expensive. Nobody wants your big old furniture. I always joke. I think about the couch that has the wood back and the plastic and covers all over it. It's in the room that nobody's allowed to go into. Right? Newsflash: if you're over 50, you're the last people that feel obligated to do things with our grandparents or parents' stuff. Right? My mom says to me all the time, she goes, "Don't you want your grandfather's bookshelf?" No, I'm good. I don't need it. She goes, "Well, what do you think your grandfather's going to think?" I go, "Well, my grandfather's been dead 20 years. I don't think he's going to be upset." Right? Our older generation, and hope some of you are probably laughing right now, our older generation holds on to things out of obligation because they know their mothers or their dads or their loved ones would have wanted them to do it. I can assure you, your Gen Xers and your millennials, we do not feel that obligation. So we don't accept the punting. Right? If you want your kids to have it, ask them. And this is the most important part. How do you know if your kid wants an item? You have to ask them. And guess what? If they tell you no, it means they don't want it. Right? Most of the times I'll ask this and they say, "Oh, well, she doesn't know better. She doesn't know that she wants it right now, but she's going to want it later. So I'm just going to hold on to it." Right? That's punting. Many of you probably have stuff from your grandparents that your mom took out of obligation, and now you've taken it out of obligation, and you can't sit on it. You don't like it. It's ugly. It doesn't match the rest of your house, and it just sits in the corner. You're like, "Yeah, that's my grandmother's pie cupboard." And you don't even want it, but you hold on to it out of obligation. That's punting. Some of you are either laughing or you're really angry at that one. But it's the truth. We're seeing it. Stop punting and stop pushing these things on your kids if they don't want it. If they say no, they really don't want it. All right, donate, donate, donate. We've talked about this on donate. I'll tell you a story about a guy I used to work for named Leroy. He's a really, really, really good dude. Now, he was homeless. Leroy lived by himself. He was homeless and illiterate, lived under a bridge, and he was a master mover. He could move anything. He couldn't read, he couldn't write, but he could. The physics he understood intuitively was amazing. And we were cleaning a very wealthy lady's house one time, and she goes, "Oh, this shirt's old, ragged, and torn. I don't need it anymore. Let's donate it." And he goes, "Ma'am, I don't mean to be rude, but I am homeless. I'm not ugly. I do not need your trash. Please give me your good stuff." And he was exactly right. A lot of us view donation as trash. It's not. These are people that need real stuff. They need it badly. And a lot of these donations will create jobs for people that need jobs. Please give the good stuff, not the trash. I'm more focused on immediate use, which means I take it to places like a battered women's shelter where these ladies have left home with nothing and they're going to get these items for free. I tend not to focus on big retail stores that are donation centers like Goodwill. These are places that they make their money strictly by selling the items. They're not saying there's anything wrong with those places. There's good in those places. But I tend to, in my business, we focus on places of immediate use, immigrant locations, people that have nothing. Dress for Success is a great place where they give dresses to women that are coming back into re-entering the workforce and they need nice clothes. Tech for Troops is another great one we're seeing nationally. Tech for Troops, it takes all your recycled electronics and it gives new vets coming into the workforce a job. And it gives them an income. And by the way, vets are not your 80-year-old man anymore. Vets are young 30-year-old guys that need work. I mean, there's both, but this Tech for Troops is great. Soles for Shoes. You guys have probably seen them around different trade shows. They take shoes and recycle them and send them all around the world. Look for immediate use. I think that's really, really important. If you have in the question, I can talk about other donation places. But donate, 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 donate. If you don't really need the money, donate it instead of selling it. And do remember on the donation side, if you're sending them trash, I don't care who the nonprofit is, if you're sending them trash, they're going to have to pay to throw that away. So you're actually giving them cost. If you're sending them trash, you're giving them a cost. You're not giving them help. Be realistic. This is one of the best ones. When you're starting to go through your clothes here, please be realistic. Okay, this is actually a picture of my closet, and these are all my pants. If you follow the mouse here, over here on the far right side, these are size 28. If you get over here, I got size 30. And then I got a few at 32, not many. And then I get into my 34s. I got a long run of 34s. And you get all the way to the end, I've got one pair of khakis and two pair of jeans. In fact, I'm wearing the pair right now that would hang on that hanger. There's 30 pair of pants here, and they range from size 28 to 36. The reality is I will never fit anything under 30 again. I'm too old to work out that much to get down to that size. I could get rid of the 30s and the 28s. Be realistic. Ladies, I've been in closets where there's from size 0 to 22. And find your happy medium. Give yourself a year of workout. What could you get down to? I do understand in the ladies' closets that clothes do come back in style. And daggone it, they do. About every 15 years, they come back in style. So keep a few things like that. But you got to get rid of the super big and the super small because they're just not realistic. I have seen one of my favorite techniques is someone actually, I had one of my clients, she did like a dress up show. The first time it snowed each year, her kids would come into the closet and she would put on a fashion show. And if everybody in the room laughed at the outfit, then it was probably time to get rid of it. Another really cool technique I have is turn your coat hangers, or if you notice very properly, all the coat hangers are facing the right way here, which I love to do. My OCD brain works for that. Turn them all around the other way, actually. And then when you wear the clothes, flip it back the right way. And so what happened is I always do that starting on New Year's Day. And so at the end of the year, the next New Year's Day, you'll see from the coat hangers the clothes that you did not wear that year. If you did not wear them the entire year, it's probably time to donate them. Clothing, and let's do this with food as well. Be realistic on your food. I see a lot of clients, well, I never had food and I'm holding on to this. And so that expiration date, that is just a ploy by the marketers to make me buy more. I hear that all the time. No, it's a real thing. It's actually a scientific thing. Throw the stuff away. You don't need it. Save the best for last. Paper, paper, paper. Your clients are in I would say, one of the most realistic groups for identity theft. So mail is a big issue, right? And paper is a big issue. I sort the mail at the source. Let's start with mail first. I sort the mail at the source, and that means I have a shred box in my garage. So I go to the mail, I come in, and if it's trash, I throw it in my shred box. And then when the shred box gets big enough, I put it in the trunk of my car, and I take it away to be shredded. Or I have a big enough pile where they just come to my house and shred it. If you're a business, most of you guys are my business partners. I think we've started to partner with a lot of our like businesses. We actually partner with a trust company, a shredding company, and a care manager company in town. And we just have a big shredding day where we offer free shredding to all of our clients. Banks, I see that doing a lot as well. There's a lot of people in your business partners in your industry that are doing free shred days. Partner with them, lower the cost, and get everybody's clients to come together. Identity theft is a very real thing, and we need to help them do it, and we need to make it as easy as possible. If you're cleaning out a really big house, I can assure you're better off just having a proper shredding company come to the house and get the documents. The catalogs and the junk mail do have personal information on it, so I would err on the safe side. On the bills, guess what? If you owe somebody money, they're going to find you. They just will. So you don't really have to worry too much about that. All right? If you owe people money, pay what you know, but don't worry about throwing away a bill that's owed because they will find you if they don't. Shredding is very, very, very important. By the way, on your taxes, 7 years is the real number. Go back 7 years. That's all you really have to go back. Now, photos. This is a hard one. Photos we keep in tons and tons and tons. My basic rule on photos is if you don't know the name of anybody in that picture, you can get rid of it. That sounds like a Jeff Foxworthy joke. If you don't know the name of anybody in the picture, get rid of it. Right? I had a client the other day. She said, "Oh, this is my ex-husband's family album." I said, "Wait, what are you keeping on to?" I said, what happened?" She said, "Oh, he left me. We got divorced." And I said, "Well, what's the picture?" She said, "It's his mother's wedding." And I said, "Is anybody in that family alive?" She said, "No, in fact, my ex-husband's dead as well." No one in that family was alive, but she was still holding on to those pictures out of obligation. Right? If no one's alive or you don't know anybody's name, get rid of it. Also, I think 200 pictures is enough, period. Now, this is where I would pull a few things out for family, pull a few pictures, and write on the back who they are. Right? And this is another great marketing opportunity for you guys. We started this tiny bit. We're testing it. I hope we're going to do it more. Helping families document who's in these pictures. You might be the last person alive, or your client might be the last person alive that knows who's in these pictures. Take 10 minutes and write those notes down, or take 10 minutes and videotape them or audio tape them going through these pictures, because this is the one thing you can't get back. I mean, I have a stack of pictures still at my house, and my Aunt BB, her name was Alma. I don't know why we called her BB. Couldn't tell you. But she was getting older, and I said, I got to get this stuff down on paper. And I put it all together in a bag, and I bought a digital audio recorder, and I got everything ready. And a couple times I set appointments with her and I didn't go, got busy, and then she passed. And here we are 5 years later. I don't have a clue who any of these people are. And my sons are asking me, "Well, who's this? He looks just like us." I said, "Yeah, I know. That guy literally looks like you, Cooper, but I don't know who he is." And there's nobody alive that does. So in the photos, I say focus more on trimming them down. Slides from Virginia Beach in 1986, they're probably not that important. Right? Be realistic. Keep about 100. 2 shoe boxes is enough. I think that's the most. 1 shoe box should be enough on the pictures, and spend more time on the documentation of who it is than anything. I think we want to say this all the time. You can't take it with you. The very first picture was of King Tut, the one guy that did take it with him. That is King Tut's tomb. The picture you're looking at right now looks like all the closets that you see me clean on TV. All right? King Tut took it all with him, and his kids didn't get none of it. If King Tut's kids were alive today, they would pay me 10 grand to go through all that stuff. All right? Please, please, please remember, get rid of this stuff now. And I'll tell you, if you're a grandma or grandpa, focus on experiences, not stuff. Stop buying your kids stuff. They are spoiled rotten. They don't need it. All right? Don't be afraid to share this message with your clients. All right? They feel an obligation to buy things. They feel an obligation to save things. Let them focus on their stuff and let them focus on experiences. And I tell this story all the time. I still can, if you drive through, I live in Richmond, Virginia, a wonderful city if you've never been there. And as you drive through Richmond, Virginia, I can tell you on the main street, the porch that my grandfather was born on. Right? My grandfather's been dead 20 years. And I tell my son every day, that's where your grandpa was born. That's where my grandpa was born. Because my grandfather drove around town and told me those stories. Stop buying them stuff. Put me out of business, y'all. I shouldn't need to have a job. Go spend time with your kids and your grandkids and share your experiences, because that's what matters. My business, Legacy Navigator, we help people clean up all the stuff. We clean up houses, we help people move, and we sell all the items in the houses. Right? I think the most important thing we do is we have a social worker on staff for every one of our clients. We're a guide. We manage all the complicated things that we do. And we finance it to make it easier and more affordable. And I've got tons and tons and tons of tips if you like this class. You can go on my Twitter. I am Matt Paxton, or my Instagram, Legacy Navigator, or I'm Matt Paxton, or if you go to legacynavigator.com. We've got hundreds of articles we've written on all these tips, many, many more than we showed you today, and they're free for you guys to share with all your clients and your business partners. Please take the articles, pass them around, use them. They're meant to inform everybody and help each other know what we're doing. And I think this is where we should pause for questions. I hope you guys learned something.
Well, thanks very much, Matt. I do have some questions for you, and I wanted to let everyone know, if you joined late or didn't notice the questions panel, feel free to type those questions in now, and we will get through as many as we can. Also, all of this information that Matt has shared with you I will compile all of this and I will send it up in a follow-up. So we'll make sure that you have everything. So the first question that I have here, Matt, when selling items, what do you think about contracting with a local auction house?
So on local auction houses, they're good on very specific items. Definitely furniture. I would always go with a local auction house. The only thing I would say no to is you do not want, sorry, hold on a second. You do not want the local, you don't want people coming into your home to sell the stuff. I think that's the challenge. So if the auction house is going to take it and sell it, that's fine. Cars, that's really good. Art, that's really good. Figure out ask them what the price is to get it there, to transport it. A lot of times they don't include that, or you have to transport it. If it's furniture, that could get difficult. So just be clear on how the item's getting there and be very clear on what the split is. Who's getting what? In a typical split, an auction house nowadays is going to take between 30 and 40% of the item. That's pretty standard. And so be prepared for that, 30 to 40%. 40 is fine. I've seen some, on some higher end furniture or some higher end art, they might take 50%. So be prepared, but 30 to 40 is fair. And local auction houses are great, but just know if they specialize in, very specific type of Asian art, don't take them, some furniture that they've never sold, because they're going to make their best money on the things they sell the best. We typically we don't sell everything with one auction house. On pretty much every one of our clients, we're going to take, the furniture to a furniture place. We're going to take the toys to a toy place. We're going to take, we're going to take them to the specialist so that we maximize the value for our clients.
Excellent. The next question I have is regarding the shredding of bills and documents, and why would you shred those and not keep the back paid bills?
You only need one bill on the back page. You need to know what the account number was. And I typically, we'll do a big list. We'll say, okay, well, we have this bank with all these accounts. If we haven't seen that account yet, we write it down, and then we scan the very last bill that we found. Specifically, the majority of our clients in that situation have passed. Mm-hmm. And so we don't really need to say, we need to show the last bill that the account is up to date. That's it. Most of us want to save back 7 years, and that's fine on the tax records. You don't need back bills for 30 years ago. Half those companies are no longer even in business, and most of them are in systems that don't even exist. You need the very last bill, and that's it. Now, what I would argue this person is probably going is, let's sort all the back bills for every account. And then once we've sorted all the paper, we know we've got all the bills, then it's appropriate to scan the last bill and write down the account numbers. What I think maybe we should qualify is, don't shred everything until you know what you have. That's probably a better way to say that.
Okay.
Good question.
And the next question is, I don't know what your experience is, but how do you approach working with persons with dementia or memory issues?
Oh, gosh, the hardest question there is. How do I work with someone with dementia? I hire a specialist because I am not good at that. And in fact, a lot of times in my hoarding world, hoarding is misdiagnosed as hoarding, and it's actually early onset dementia. We bring in specialists. That is not a hobby. That is something you need an expert in. And in fact, on the hoarding side, I actually don't let them be involved in the sorting, to be really blunt, because they're not able to make logical decisions. They're just not able to do it. Now, I see some pretty extreme cases, so I think mine are a little more extreme. But I'll have a care manager or a caretaker or someone that is, and often in that situation, you actually need to have whoever is legally allowed to make decisions in that home with me, whether it be a guardian or a caretaker or whoever the will says is in charge of that. Because the reality is, if the person has Alzheimer's, then my contract is void. It's not legally binding if they have Alzheimer's. So I shouldn't be, or dementia, I shouldn't be in that house anyway at that point. So we typically bring in an expert, but I will tell you from my personal experience, do not clean with someone that's struggling with that in present, because it's just going to agitate them and upset them and make the condition worse, and you as well.
Right.
And by the way, I charge by the hour, and so I don't think that's ethical for me to make the same decision hourly with the person, and I charge them 4 hours to answer the same question 10 times. I think that's wrong as well, and so we will bring in a specialist that can do that. And a lot of times I'm having to turn down business, to be really blunt on that. If it's a family that is firm on that, say, look, I'm not the right person for this, and then we bring in a competitor that is, because that's just the better thing for the client.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned the hourly charge. I did have a question about how you went about approaching that.
Yeah, we charge by the hour because everybody's different, man.
Right.
I mean, if grandma wants to take her time and she's aware of our pricing, fine. If we're on a budget, we need to know that, hey, we've only got 8 hours. And so we're able to press faster and say, ma'am, you've only able to pay me for 8 hours and we got to finish this house. So we've only got, 10 minutes to make the decision. And so we can push faster in an appropriate way. But, no one makes no one makes decisions the same pace. And so that's what we charge by the hour.
Oh, okay. And then Legacy Navigator, that's nationwide. Is that correct?
Correct. We are nationwide. We cannot provide financing in California. And in all the other states, the person has to qualify. But that's based on the ability to sell the house, not on credit. But yeah, we have teams around the country to help.
Okay, excellent. And I'll just go through a couple more here. We are winding down on time. So the next question, how do you work with clients that have an unrealistic idea of the value of their items?
Great question. How do you work with families that have an unrealistic value or expectation of value? Every client is going to have an unrealistic value expectation. So you have to educate from the beginning. You got to tell them, hey, man, this is expect 25%, whatever number you think this couch is worth, it's 25% that at best. And that is why we really focus on auctions, because auctions tell you what the market will bear. Because grandma, and here's the thing, a lot of times our grandparents are the ones that taught us those false beliefs. They'll be like, well, my grandfather said this teddy bear is worth $1 million. He paid $1 million for it. And then I turn it over and it's he bought it at a dime store. And then I put it at auction and it sells for $8. Sometimes if they're really, really, you have to educate early and often. It's easier to have a third party do this. You don't want your grandson to be the one that told grandpa something was worth X or Y, because then he gets mad. So it is worth bringing an appraiser in. Pay the appraiser $200, $300 to come in here and estimate the entire house and tell them what it's worth. Now, research your appraisers, make sure they're good, because you don't want them coming in and saying, oh, it's worth $5,000 and it's really only worth $500. But it starts with education and often educating grandpa, this is going to go for less, and then get an independent third party in there and then sell it in a manner where there's people setting bids up, because that is going to tell you what the real price is. If 500 people bid on it and only sold for $40, well, then that's the answer. That's what it's worth. But they're always going to be disappointed in the pricing. That's why we actually use independent experts. We don't do the selling. We bring independent third parties in to do it, because they're the best at it. And so I want to separate my service from that.
It sounds like you or Legacy Navigator has a pretty well-established network. You have a lot of specialized companies that you go to for your specific needs. Does that sound right?
Yeah. We manage the thing. All of our technicians in the house, they are in-house. They're employees that work for us. But on the sales side, correct, we bring in independent local experts, because they're going to be able to sell the stuff the best.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, well, I think that wraps up the time that we had for today. So again, to everyone, I will put together all of this information in something so you can have it right in front of you. A lot of the recommendations and stuff that was gone over today. Lots of great stuff, Matt. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And if everyone here enjoyed this presentation, please come join us in Dallas. Matt will be presenting. He's one of our featured keynotes in Dallas, August 24th through the 26th, the CSA conference. So we hope you'll join us. If you want to join us, we have a promo code for you. Go to the website, enter the promo code webinar when you register for the conference, and it'll save you $30 off that registration fee. And again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Matt, can't thank you enough. And in closing, the CSA monthly webinars are brought to you by the Society of Certified Senior Advisors. Please join us every month for an exploration of different topics, tools, and techniques related to aging. Have a great day, everyone.